Now, let's backtrack to when David was born in 1960 on April 30th. He was born in a hospital in Lower Bucks County, Pennsylvania, which is just a little bit north of Philadelphia. And he was born with an asthmatic condition that was
Mm.
horrible. And I remember the day he was born, and he's a twin sister, Denise. These two beautiful babies were born, and I just, I felt this overwhelming love for you. You have a child. You told me this when we were talking about this.
Yeah.
There's that feeling that you have toward this new person coming into life, and unless you've had children, you don't know what it's like. But to a social person like yourself or myself, it's a moment. I think. Now, his asthmatic condition was terrible. He would turn blue trying to catch his breath, and I was at my wits' end trying to figure out something I could do to help him. I would take him to a pediatrician, and the pediatrician would give him a shot of adrenaline, and that would bring him back to where he could breathe regularly. But
Mm.
I tried all kinds of oddball ideas. I mean,
Did you get him an inhaler?
of course we had all that stuff, but when it hits, it's just it's a hell of a thing getting him out of it. I'll tell you what I did one time because I didn't know what to do, and I'd try everything. It was the winter time, and he had this attack coming on, and he was right in it where you can't breathe out. You can take it in, but you just can't seem to get your breath out. So I took him upstairs. I took him in the bathroom. I took off all of his clothes. I took off all of mine. I actually did this, so I'm going to tell you, this is how desperate I was. I stepped in the shower. We had a stand-up shower there, and I put the water on warm. I'm holding him in my arms, and I said, David, listen, kid, I'm not doing this to hurt you because I'm with you. So here we go. I turned off the hot water, and that fucking cold water come out like ice cubes, hit both of us. We both started going. I took him out, rubbed him down with a Turkish towel. He was over the asthmatic attack. That's the
Wow.
kind of shit that I used to have to do to get him out of it. Okay. And
How
there
old
were
was he at the
times,
time?
a little kid, maybe 7 or 8 years old, something like that, 6 years old.
Jeez.
Anyway, and another thing I did is this. I used to take him in the garage. I had weights out in the garage, and I'd make him lift weights if he started coming on. And sometimes it would work. Other times, if it was too
Do
much,
you think it was like the fact that you were kind of shocking him with something like that, like lifting weights or getting, freezing to death in the shower, kind of just get your mind off what's going on inside your body?
well, it takes your attention off the other thing, and it puts your attention on the fact. Mind you, I didn't stand him in there. I held him in my arms, so we both got that. And those fucking ice cubes coming out of that shower.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, Philly is cold in the wintertime, and that water was probably just a degree above freezing. No, I'll tell you where I got the idea. And goddamn, this is like, okay, well, we're going this direction because this is all leading to a point, though. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm in the Marine Corps, and I did boot camp in Paris Island, and then the Korean War was over. So they said, "What do you want to do?" And where do you want to go? And I said, "I wouldn't mind going to Quantico, Virginia." Instead of going to Quantico, Virginia, I had to go to advanced combat training in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, which was good, and it was very tough. As a matter of fact, I think physically it was a little tougher than boot camp. But anyway, I ended up in Quantico, and I have a job there working in a place called Schools Demonstrations Troops. What this was a battalion of Marines. We had various companies. We had a machine gun company, an infantry company, a communications company, a logistics company, and I worked in battalion headquarters. The whole purpose of this battalion was to demonstrate war problems to Marine officers because Quantico, Virginia is where they trained officers in the United States Marine Corps. So this battalion of men would go out in the field and demonstrate various war problems, and the second lieutenants to be would be there observing this and learning from it. What I did is I had to keep statistics on everything that happened in that battalion that day. Like how many men were out in which out camp? Like I think Camp Geiger was one of them, Camp Upshur. How many men ate there? How many men were on leave? How many men were on unofficial leave? And I had to compile a complete logistical report and get it down to battalion headquarters by noon. Okay.
Mm.
This was a tough job, and I learned how to do it quickly. And because of that, that was the rest of my day. I was free
Right.
to do anything I wanted to. So that's what I was doing. And just give you a color of what my life was like. And I had to get some dental work done. So I went down to the dentist, which was in the main side, had some dental work done, and a couple days later, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, my entire face went into extreme pain. It was like somebody put me in an iron mask. You know that thing they had in the medieval days where they'd push the gore on you and knives would go into your face. I'm telling you, it was horrible. I went to see the dentist the next day and I said, "Look, here's what's happening, and you got to help me." He says, "Oh, I know what it is. That's facial neuralgia." I said, "Well, how do you handle it?" He says, "Well, we don't know how to handle it, but here, you gave me some aspirins." God, what the fuck is this? You give it a name and that's it? So I went back to the barracks, came on. I took the aspirin, it didn't work. I went down to the PX and I bought a bottle of bourbon. I took it back, take a nice slug in a glass, put me, laid in bed and went to sleep. I was doing this for about 3 days and I thought, Jesus Christ, I'm going to become an alcoholic. I can't continue to do this. So I went the next day and sure enough, it came on again. I put on my utilities, which is your work clothes, and I walked out to the air station base, which was about an hour, about a mile away. Sorry. I go into the place where they had weights, and I'm in extreme pain. I figure I'm going to lift weights. I'm going to do some goddamn thing. So there was a guy there, and I says, "Hey, you want to lift with me?" And he says, "Yeah." So we were going to spot each other. We ended up working on it for 6 months together. So I'm on a bench and I'm doing a bench press. Okay. So I do one set of the bench press, hand it to him. He does a set. I'm doing the second set. I says, "Here, take the weight." The pain went away. I had no face pain. So I thought to myself, maybe if when you're experiencing something like a pain or some duress, if you could do something to forcibly take your attention off of it, it might go away because that just happened to me. So I concluded I'm like 18 years old at that point. I had this theory that pain, in order for it to exist, has to be fed life by the person receiving it, which I thought was pretty fucking good because that handled that pain. And I never got the facial neuralgia again. Now, let's get up to where David has asthmatic attacks, all right? Frank Ogle gave what is called auditing sessions. Are you familiar with that term?
Yeah, auditing. So it's kind of like a lie detector test they put you through, and they ask you questions.
Yeah. Well, you use an e-meter, which is like a
Right.
lie detector,
Right.
but it's counseling, okay?
They hook you up to this electronic thing, and you hold these two like metal rods or whatever, and they ask you questions.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. I think most of the audience watching this probably knows about it if they've seen other Scientology programs. But anyway, I thought, you know what? I'm going to see if Frank Ogle can give David one of these sessions, and maybe, just maybe, somehow it'll work. Like my lifting weights got my attention off it. Maybe this auditing session can take his attention off of it. So I take David down, and he meets Frank Ogle, and I said, "Frank, there you go. You think you can help him?" He says, "Well, we're going to sure try." He takes him in a room. About 45 minutes later, David walks out. He's smiling. He's bright. I say, "What happened?" He says, "Dad," he says, "I'm handled." He says, "You're kidding me." He says, "No." He says, "I'm handled." Now, that was a moment for me.
Hmm.
because he never had another severe attack as a child. He would get asthmatic attacks, but they were never as severe as they were before Frank Ogle took him in for that auditing session.
Now, how can an auditing session have that kind of effect on you?
How much do you think the mind has to do with how you feel and think and are?
100% of everything.
Okay, well, that's exactly what you address when you go into these. Listen, before I go any further, I'm not advising people to join Scientology, okay? Because there is some good to it, but the bad far outweighs the good. I am telling you. There are beginning courses that you do, like the communication course. I will tell you, I've benefited from that ever since the first day I took it. But
Right.
you started getting into the other stuff, and it turns into horseshit, and then you're going to be out a lot of money, and you're going to have your family disconnected from you and your friends if you talk out against them. So believe
There's
me,
a
when I'm
yeah.
go on.
There's a lot of wacky shit, like worshiping a galactic overlord Xenu. That once you get into the depths of it, like we'll cover this later in this podcast. But the beginning part of it, the part of Scientology that hooks you, there's a lot of benefit to it. There's a lot of eliminating your demons, getting rid of all the negative influences in your life, getting shit done.
I'll tell you, you're right. This is the hook. That beginning is the hook, and I'll show you how that works then, all right? But let's get back to David now, okay? So now, never had another severe attack. At that point, I decided I'm going to get my whole family in this.
So you think the auditing session taught him how to use his mind in a different way?
No, it doesn't teach you that. But probably what happened is this. It gets you to realize that you had something, if not everything, to do with the position that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
As an example, let's try a little analogy here. A guy's living in a swamp, and every year he gets swamp fever. And maybe about once or twice every 2 years, he gets bitten by a snake. And he makes it to the doctor to get the snake poison taken out, and he lives. Now, Scientology is not going to teach you how to cure yourself of snake bites or swamp fever, but it might get you to realize, why did you move to the swamp in the first place? You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Why did you put yourself in harm's way? That might not be a correct analogy for what happened with David, but I'm telling you, it gets you to come to more of a causative point as to what you have to do with what's ailing you or what's troubling you or some physical things. Look, this is no bullshit. That beginning stuff helps a lot of people. But it does this. You do the communication course. And you think, man, this is great. This, I can communicate better. I know the anatomy of a communication. And what if it goes awry? I know how to fix it. I can handle life better. I can get along better with my wife, other people. So you think, man, this is good stuff. In other words, you're starting to gain confidence in it, right? Another thing comes along. Maybe you receive beginning counseling or auditing, and you come to realize some things as to how come you felt bad about a certain person or why you feel bad about yourself. And you think, this is good. You're gaining confidence.
Mm-hmm.
You're gaining confidence. Now something comes along and they present a fact to you that doesn't quite seem to make sense. And you think, well, this doesn't seem to make sense, but I'll accept it because everything so far has been good. The hook is in.
You're saying
Because
that
there's things that worked. You knew they worked. You applied them. They helped you in life. Now you're presented with something that is a little bit off the mark, but you think, well, it doesn't quite make sense, but I'll accept it because everything so far has been true.
because now you're a believer.
And at that point, you're susceptible to believing everything and anything they tell you because you've made up your mind in the first part that it's all good. So it must be all good all the way. Maybe I don't understand it exactly. Maybe there's something about it that I'll learn later on, but I'll accept it.
So you're saying all of the self-help stuff in the beginning, the stuff that teaches you to be better at communicating better at using your mind to overcome your situations, better, it helps you to make better decisions in your life. That is sort of like the peanut butter that helps you swallow the pill of what comes later.
Yes, and I'll tell you this. If you you shouldn't say all the things that you get, but I'd say most of them. I can't think of what wouldn't be good, but I'd rather give it a percentage rather than saying 100%. But the early part is good. That's in my experience. And I can tell you just from my experience because it helped me. But that's to my detriment.